back to another episode of Conversations with Beloved and Kindred. My name is Dr. Grace D. Gipson, an assistant professor in the Department of African American Studies at Virginia Commonwealth University.
And I am Dr. Kanika Robinson. I'm a visiting assistant professor in the Department of Africana Studies at University of Pittsburgh.
All right, so you all know that we've been building up to this episode. We are like, let's see, what is this? 4 episodes in, I
Yes,
think.
this is our fourth one. Yes.
And we have been, since we started talking about this podcast, video podcast about Harlem Nights. Like, we knew from the gate that we knew we had to talk about it because we wanted to offer another lens, another look at this particular movie. So before we dive in, we do want to acknowledge that we did recently lose two legends in the game, music-wise and sports-wise. And so we want to, send our hearts and prayers and thoughts to the family of the Supremes co-founder Mary Wilson and Olympic gold medalist boxer Leon Spinks.
Yes. I'm glad that we did give honor to them because they are important in our culture and, our history. Like you said, both worlds, music and sports. So,
yep. Yeah. And, it's important that we recognize those who maybe don't necessarily get recognized in the larger scale. So that's why we're here. We make sure we do that, make sure we acknowledge.
Exactly. That's good.
All right. Take it away, Dr. Robinson.
So I'm extremely excited. I love Harlem Nights. Harlem Nights, I think, is the funniest movie of all time. Now, we will argue, that's fine, but I'm right, because it's the funniest movie of all time, right? Okay. And I absolutely love Richard Pryor. He is one of my favorite comedians, and as I told you before, he would be the captain of my roast team.
I agree with you on that.
Yes, he would have to be the captain. Yeah. But I'm really excited to talk about Harlem Nights for that reason, because not only is it hilarious, it has some of the greatest comedians in this film. And like, I know we listed, go ahead. Like, we listed, first of all, we talked about how Eddie Murphy, this was his first directorial debut.
Right.
I remember reading at one point, he was like, he wished it was better or something like that. He said, this is one of the greatest films of all time.
Like, to think that he really kind of just did not see this as a great film. Like, he really downplayed it. And that's odd, considering like this is one of what you like to call a classic, or a black classic. Here first, if you haven't heard it before, you heard it here first. Because it is really truly part of the Black film canon.
Yes.
You can't talk about Black films without talking about Harlem Nights. It's just no way not to include it. And so,
and if you don't talk about it, we will talk about your Black card.
Yep.
I mean, there will be a point of discussion. I'm not saying we will remove it or take it away or cut it up, but we will have to have a discussion about it. But I understand if you haven't seen. No, I don't understand it. I'm sorry.
No, I can't understand it.
I can't.
You really are going to have to talk about, revoking your membership. You
would have to really have a good lawyer team. Like, you would have to bring forth a lot of evidence that you should keep your card, because Harlem Nights, hilarious. Granted, it's not for kids.
Not at all.
Not even in the slightest. It is not for kids. It's not for kids, but it is amazing. Like, it's so much.
And if you think about it, so 1989. So I'm going to show my age here. I was 8 years old when it came out. So I start to think like, well, when did I see Harlem Nights? Because if we're saying right now it's not for kids, did I see it as a kid, and was I supposed to? But I don't know.
I may have saw that when I was like, granted, it came out in 89. I know I didn't see it then because I was younger, but I think I saw it before I was 18. I know I saw it before I was like 15.
Yeah.
I don't know if you should do that. I don't know, but it worked out for us. It's still hilarious to this day, right? And it's a great show just to watch, just for fun. I love this movie. I'm excited. So,
wait, before you get to your point, just to add to, in addition to like Eddie Murphy not thinking he did this great movie, the reviews weren't all that hot about Harlem Nights either. They were, for the most part, pretty negative. They criticized it for its slow pacing, and here's the killer: lack of comedy. Yeah, we had
How?
of comedy. Hmm. Yeah, because if we think about it, Harlem Nights is one of those films that has been referenced frequently in music videos, comedy shows, TV references, everything. So it lacked comedy. Mm, to each his own. To each his own.
I know everyone has their own opinion. I give credit where credit is due. Enjoy your time. But that's a wrong opinion.
It is. It
It
is.
is funny from the first scene to the end. How does that work? And if you have all these comedians who have reached such height in popularity in their own time in this one film, how can you say it's not funny? When you have Eddie Murphy directing something like this, how
Right.
can you say it's not funny? But it says a lot about popular culture and Black comedians
Right.
and the view of Blackness at this time, especially in the 80s
And
or
who
89.
Jr. I mean, so let me just run down the list for you who was in the cast. You had Redd Foxx, Richard Pryor, Robin Harris, the late Robin Harris,
Right.
Eddie Murphy, the late Charlie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, the late Thomas Michael Ford, Ronaldo Ray. Then those are just your comedians, you know. Then we have your actresses Della Reese, Stan Shaw, Jasmine Guy, Layla Rashawn,
Mhm.
Miguel Nunez. So, I mean, that was an all-star cast lineup.
Yes, yes. I mean, we're going to talk about it later, but my favorite character is definitely Vera, which was Della Reese.
Yeah.
Um,
She and it's funny because I can't help but think about Della Reese in Touched by an Angel. So, but
I mean, because I don't, okay, of course, I think I watched Harlem Nights when I was young,
yes,
but the main part of my childhood has been touched by an angel in regards to her work.
right.
And so I think when I saw it when I was older, I thought, is that Della Reese?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she is so great. Where even though I know her from Touched by an Angel, she still delivered this role like that role didn't even exist. It shows her versatility. Where it was like, oh wow, Della is like you're hilarious. I didn't even know this because Touched by an Angel wasn't like that. It was not a company.
You're total opposite. Total.
Completely different. That's fine.
All right. So set us the scene. Set up the scene for us.
Okay. So it starts in 1918.
Yep.
And this is in Harlem. So this is 1918 is considered around the beginning of the Harlem Renaissance.
Hmm.
And so that really we see that in this film, even in 1918, where you see they're in this back room, but then when they go to 1938, you see the more elaborate scenes
Right.
because the Harlem Renaissance has grown since then.
Hmm.
And so we have to speak a bit about well, what was the Harlem Renaissance?
Yes.
So this was like the intellectual and cultural boom of African Americans,
Yep.
where many African Americans were gravitating to Harlem as this cultural center. And it was to be or to speak against these stereotypes of what Black people were, especially during this time. You think about Jim Crow, you think about the racist history and present. We'll talk about that later of this country. So the Harlem Renaissance was this vibrant culture of intellectuals of and other cultural artists as well, like poets and dancers and singers and things of that nature.
Yep. And then if we dig a little deeper into the significance of the city of Harlem,
Mhm.
so which is pretty much expressed all throughout the film,
Yes.
from the opening to the only slow part about that film was the opening. That's the only slow part about the
It
film.
wasn't though. It wasn't slow.
We agree to disagree. But we agree to disagree. But so yeah, everything from, because it was that a satin, it was kind of like a satin sheet background that that opens up the movie.
Okay, let me go back. I go back. I withdraw my previous statement. Okay, so yes, it was a satin thing when they were doing the credits. Granted,
Yes.
you probably could have cooked dinner and did a lot of stuff, ran errands and came back before the movie began. But the thing is, I look at it as though Eddie Murphy wanted to make sure he gives credit to everyone in like a more open format versus just listing credits at the end. I feel as though this was his time to say, I want to give credit to not only the main characters or the first few, I want to give credit to everyone, to acknowledge all the Black greats that are in this film. So if it took a little bit longer, I was okay with that. One, it's the greatest film ever, so fine, take some time. I mean, I eat and I already know who's in it, so I'm good. I watched Harlem Nights plenty of times and I've sat through that, so I know everybody who's in it at this point. But again, I like that because of the fact that he acknowledged everyone, not just the main characters. So I give him credit for that.
I give him that. With the, like I said, with the satin sheet background as we enter in. So, and so Harlem, going back to the significance of the city itself, was as you mentioned about the Harlem Renaissance, the city also was a destination for African Americans of all backgrounds.
Right.
It was, at one time housed the largest concentration of Black people in the world. Now, granted, some may argue Atlanta, houses the largest concentration, but at one time, Harlem did, hold that mantle there. Definitely, the turning point with the Harlem Renaissance being there, the city of Harlem, takes a turning point. You also see where Harlem is recognized as this international Mecca, international Black Mecca. Once again, something that could be argued, but for the sake of this time period, we'll say that, or it's been said that Harlem was internationally known as the Black Mecca for the world. And it definitely served as this kind of self-portrait of African American life and identity. It instilled this new spirit, of self-determination, which we definitely see in the film. Self-determination, you see pride, all of that is, resonates through Harlem Nights. So it was, apropos as far as the, the city, it being located there, and the whole movement itself, recognizing the Harlem Renaissance.
Right. It was just like you said, it was this identity of pride, of being proud of who you are, being proud of your Blackness, not just being this type of, this stereotype that is usually imposed on us by, white media and racism during that time. So it was really a moment of, again, like you said, self-determination and pride. And we see that, like you said, throughout this whole film. And also when you think of the characters, where in Harlem, when you think about the Harlem Renaissance, yes, again, we know racism exists. Of course, I have to bring it up. But it was about joy. Yeah. It was about really just celebrating culture. It was about dancing. It was about creatively talking about ourselves. Right. It was about our intellectual gifts. So it was the celebration, and we see that. We see this through Sugar Ray.
And considering that we see, starts in 1918, jumps to 1938, even in the midst of everything that's happening during this time, the films still show all this joy, all this celebration, all this happiness. And yes, it's important that we acknowledge the trauma and the struggle, but we gotta, just as much as we acknowledge that, we gotta celebrate and acknowledge the joy, the happiness, and the fashion, the styles, the creation, the mobilization, everything that we were doing during that time is commendable and should be noted and acknowledged. So absolutely, as much as we cried, we laughed too.
We have no time to cry. We got time for that. But this film, even in the midst of everything that's going on now in 2021, or after 2022, 2021, watching this film still brought me joy.
Yeah.
Even if, it was referencing Harlem Renaissance and things like that going on, and that was joy. The way it was delivered brought me joy.
Right.
And one thing I also, like you mentioned about the attire, and how you had the women in these flapper dresses, you have these men in these three-piece suits, dressed fancy, and it really showed Black people in a different light.
It did.
Where it celebrated Black culture, and it also shows that are creative in regards to our attire. It's not saying that you're better just because you wear these outfits. No, it's just saying that we can be creative. We can be consider high society or whatever that is.
Right.
But it was a great way of celebrating our creativity, you know?
And it further confirmed we always look good.
We,
Like,
I, I don't know when we didn't. When didn't we look good?
exactly. I mean, there wasn't a time period where we were not transcending fashion, where we were not pushing the envelope, as far as what to wear. There was never a time, and I really like this period of time as far as the attire. I've definitely seen lots of theme parties dedicated to the Harlem Renaissance, dedicated to Harlem Nights, and it was just a level of fashion that just made you feel good.
Yes, exactly.
What you looked like and what you exuded, it showed. Like, you didn't have to say anything. It was just kind of like, look at me, you see me. And so
What's that phrase where it's like, you don't look like what you feel like or something like that?
yeah, I know what you mean.
It was like, we still gonna look good. We may struggle, but look at my dress.
Exactly. And so Harlem was also known as Sugar Hill. And so you had folks like Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Thurgood Marshall, who lived in Harlem. So, like I say, greatness is all over. We everywhere. And the fact that Langston Hughes called Harlem that attracted rise of bluff, and that Harlem was named for the sweet life enjoyed by its residents, which, if we think about it, Sugar Ray, who had a candy shop in Harlem and Sugar Hill. So, it all connects. They knew what they were doing, as far as putting this all together.
Now, do you think, and we may have mentioned it before, we talked about it a little bit. Okay, this could be a stretch about Sandman. It could be a stretch. Okay, it could be. Okay, so Sandman makes an appearance in the movie, a brief appearance.
Opening, yeah.
He was walking by, and they were talking about because he lost
his money.
He lost his money. Hilarious. Again, I don't know how people didn't think it was funny. I can't repeat it. It's a lot of cursing. Yeah. But either way, so he passed by Richard Pryor. He talks to Richard Pryor's character, Sugar Ray.
Yeah.
And so then we're like, oh, it's that now. Watching Harlem Nights many years, this was the first time I noticed that was Sandman.
Like, wait a minute.
Like, what am I saying this? That's Sandman. It was like, yes. And so, all right. So Sandman was a tap dancer. He used the name Sandman because when he would tap, he would put sand
on
the ground and he would, tap dance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in his life, he taught Sugar Ray Robinson, the boxer, how to tap dance. Now, Sandman used to be a boxer at one point in his life, but he hurt his left hand. So he ended up becoming a tap dancer. Now, going back again, he helped Sugar Ray Robinson learn to tap dance.
Right.
So then you have him show up in this movie. Then you have him talking to Sugar Ray.
Exactly. The connections, it just, whether these were intentional, whether this was purposeful, whether it just happened to work out that way.
Right.
Yeah. History is just, it was filtered throughout, and that was just the, first couple of minutes of the film. We're already getting that history. So.
And his name was Howard Sandman Sims. I want to make sure that we.
Yes. Black excellence for sure. And which speaks to Eddie Murphy's, openness to have this all-star cast, to bring in all this talent. It's we don't really see that too much in films, where you get a chance to see all of these greats in this one film.
Right.
I was reading some commentary where he was talking about it was nothing but like laughter and joy on the set all the time. Like, to be a fly on the wall at that set, to see everything go down. Like, they had to have so much fun putting this movie together. So
it was great because they weren't competing.
Yeah.
As though Redd Foxx was trying to say, "Oh, I'm better than everyone else." It wasn't. They were complimenting each other. Right. It was just great collegiality that we even saw through the film and how they played off each other very well. I'm sorry, I keep laughing because it's hilarious. You have to see the film. You just have to see it. Because I was going to talk about that one scene where it was Sugar Ray, Benny, and Eddie Murphy about the pinky toe incident, and he was going to go and apologize, but I'll wait on that.
Yeah, we're going to get there.
That was a great scene, all of them coming together. Just want to throw that out there.
So think about, the work of, two of the legends that we love and admire, Octavia Butler and Toni Morrison, and this idea of the imagination. Harlem Nights is truly an example of imagining the greatness of Blackness, and that it does exist. Like, we do thrive, we do, excel. Exactly. And granted, yes, this was a film directed by a Black man, but the fact that a Black feminist imagination could still be seen throughout throughout this film, and the ways in which community works together. Because as Black feminists, it's not just about one individual or one gender. It's about ensuring that the community thrives and that we get to the next level, that we get pushed, and that we succeed. It's not just one, it's a collective.
Right, exactly. And I mean, even speaking on that community in regards to it being an ensemble cast, like, you barely saw you may have seen only one or two at certain points, but it was usually many people in the scene together.
Exactly.
Emphasizing that community. And even throughout the film, you see how Sugar Ray made efforts to make sure this community stayed together. Even at one point when the police incarcerated everyone at his club, and how he paid for everyone to get released, and he did it with confidence. He was like, "How much is it?"
Right. And give him
I won't argue them out. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
And the look on that police officer's face, he was everybody, all of them. And then when it was, when it got to the point of how much, and he tried to, act like he was about to do something here. He was like, $7,500. And Sugar Ray opens up his briefcase,
and he had money like it was filled, and he pulled out just one roll and was like, "Merry Christmas." Here we go. He didn't say Merry Christmas. But here.
It was so important that they all stayed together, that everybody was, nobody was left behind. No, as they said, no child left behind, no Black person left behind.
And one thing I want to add to that, you saw how he was dressed when he went up to the police station?
Yes.
He had his best. He was like, "I'm ready. I have money." And
they were in limos with his candy. So not only did I bail you, I pay for your bail, but I'm gonna also give you a ride home with a little parting gift. So
just and then they talked about at that one of my favorite scenes when I was just talking about. He brought that up. He was like, "You should have seen it quick." Right. It was, again, I cannot repeat it because this is it's a lot of cursing in what he actually said. But yes, and then I really, even at this moment where you would think that the people would be stressed out when they walking out, and I can't say the phrase, but please look it up. When Vera made that statement of love,
she goes, "Kiss my entire," and y'all already know what it was.
And then she did it like she stood. I guess it wasn't love because she was talking to the police officers. Anyway, so she's walking out, and she was walking slower because at this point her pinky toe was gone, which we'll speak of later. She stopped with confidence and said, "Kiss my entire," and she did it in such an elegant way,
Yeah.
And didn't even care. She was like, "You're not going to beat me. Like, we're leaving in limos with candy. Are you serious?" So it was beautiful.
Not just not little 4-door sedans, limos.
Everybody. He was ready. That was, and that even goes into our conversation on empowered women.
Yes. Speak on it.
So, okay. Harlem Renaissance, but the Harlem Nights team or cast, you never see, even though it's primarily men,
right?
you never see women as this subordinate role. They were active in this process. Like Della Reese was a part of the ensemble cast, and she was not just an afterthought. Like, oh, we just need a woman. She and I would say she and Dominique LaRue, the Creole woman, they helped drove, and Sunshine as well, helped drive the plot forward.
Right.
So it wasn't just them being, oh, I'm a woman, I'm here. No, they were actually helping the plot of the story, not just the scheme of course, in the film, but they helped move the plot. They helped move the storyline.
Vera had a seat at the table.
They had a seat at the table.
She wasn't asked to come in afterwards after they've had this. She had a seat at the table.
Literally at the table. And when they did talk without her, they had to wait on her.
Exactly.
Until she came in. And what was beautiful about that, yeah, because she had the rest of the money, but they waited for her.
Right.
And even when Quick, because Quick, he has a mouth. He was young, he grew up without parents, and there was a lot going on. He, had a hard life. He tried to come at her, and she was like, oh, how should I say this without the words? I'm not going to leave until the last woman is done.
Right.
And commanding authority in that scene while everyone was sitting and she was standing.
Yeah.
Even in that moment, the optics of it meant a lot in regards to empowerment of women in this role. And not letting Quick take over her.
Right.
You know? And it was just really beautiful because you see how even the older men who, Quick again is young. The older man was like, respect her.
Yeah.
You need to respect her or else. And or else happens.
Even when he was like, whatever he was going to do to her, whatever he was going to say, they even kind of gave that look like, I mean, I ain't messing with that man. Like, it was that level of discernment, like, I'm staying out of that one.
Like completely staying out of it. Like, I don't think because you're young and you haven't been through a lot yet, but you don't know Miss Vera over here. Like
you might want to have a seat.
Right. Because even when he would look around and he was like, so many different things. Before he went out to fight Vera, because at one point, Quick said to Vera, why does she keep coming up short? Doubting her. Yeah. And she was like, so you're going to doubt me?
Right. You say I'm lying? Basically.
That's what you want to do? Let's go outside. Right. Of course, this is filled with curse words at this point. And as she goes outside, he's still inside and he's like, okay, blah, 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 making fun of this, fight that could possibly happen.
It's still a joke.
It's funny. And then he was talking to Sugar Ray, and Sugar Ray was like, man, be careful. Like, I get what you're saying, you think it's funny, but I'm not even laughing. Because
even in whatever term of endearment, Redd Foxx was like, you dealing with a heavyweight, and that's the top class of boxing.
Exactly.
Even he know, like they all knew.
They knew. They tried to tell him, but he still wanted to go forward. And it was like, go ahead, you do you. But what we're saying is, we can't support this. We cannot. And so you even see one thing, and before I go even further in the scene, you see how she gets, Vera, this woman, this Black woman, Della Reese, gets an important comedic role in the film.
Yes.
It's one of the most memorable, the more memorable scenes in the entire movie. And that to me is powerful, where you're giving this woman this big scene. Even, we didn't know I didn't know Della Reese at that time, period. I mean, I was kind of 3 years old. But either way, like, you see these big characters like Richard Pryor, Redd Foxx, you see Eddie Murphy. And Della Reese is great in her own right. And the fact that Eddie Murphy allowed her to be this big person in this scene, or to have an important role in the comedic aspect of this film, is great.
Yep.
So I want to stay on the scene a little bit more, because it really speaks again to the importance of women and the strength of women. Because when she goes outside to fight him,
right,
she's not like, oh my God. No, this lady was like punching him. He was weak. Even when he threw the trash can at her, she said, oh, you're gonna throw the trash can. so okay, I can't get through this. But then when she got back up off that, he was looking crazy, and she was like, she put out her knife, and then he pulled out his gun. And he was like, I'm gonna shoot you in your pinky toe, and then talked about the crested black, whatever, pinky toe. And she was like, oh, you're gonna shoot me in my pinky toe. And he looked back at the men who was like,
they was like
you gonna have to do you.
You on your own.
Know what you want to do. And go ahead.
I really feel like had maybe it went down a little differently, or even in the way that it did, like let's say it went down worse, like the men would not have come to help Quick. They would have helped Vera. And to me, I'm like, that shows you like, Quick, you're not up there. You're not at that status level where, it's about you. It's like really, they would immediately have rushed to the aid of Vera to make sure, that she was all right. She got up, whatever the case may be.
Right. Because even when like later on, after she was getting taken out by a stretcher, Sugar Ray had a conversation with him like, you're quick tempered. You need to work on yourself. So it wasn't victim blaming like sometimes we would see. It wasn't blame the black woman for causing the stir, the problems. It was Sugar Ray. It's your fault. You literally brought a gun to a knife fight. Yeah. You need to deal with yourself. And I appreciate that.
And, and the fact that he was like, you need to apologize to her. You need to say you're sorry. And even Benny, Redd Foxx's character, like, it's her love, the way that she loved, like she really do love you. She's really a nice, warm person, and she's cussing him out in the background scene. So this is another scene where, literally she in there making a sandwich for him, and they're appreciative of it. But at the same time, and they're saying all these kind words. And she's like, you left this swallow of orange juice
out in the container. Everything.
And so how they, every time until he did it, they were like, Quick, you need to apologize. You need to apologize. Like, recognizing who this is.
Right.
And they didn't let it go until he did it. And I also appreciate the fact that they did not just, brush this off like, oh, whatever, that's just how she is. No, it was like, no, you really need to respect her. You really need to, like I said, apologize. And, and he does, he eventually does. And, the fact that he listened and, and even her motherly role that she had, that's not overbearing. It's not mammy-like, right. So there's no stereotype attached to it. It's just who she is. I mean, she kind of reminded me of my grandmother and mother at times, in scenes where it's like, they love you. They gonna say everything. They gonna, curse you out. They gonna say whatever, but they still love you.
And they'll protect you too. Yeah. They'll protect you and they'll love you through it. And because again, motherly is not always hugs and kisses either. Sometimes chastisement.
Yep.
And he needs to be chastised. And another thing, I want to go back to something you said. You remember when Quick was like, I thought we moved on past this. I thought we said forget it.
Right.
And you were right when they were like, no, you need to go apologize.
Mm-hmm.
And to hold him accountable, you can't just mistreat a black woman like this and just move on with your life. Mm-hmm. That is not okay.
Right.
Like, you can't.
It was, and much to like what you were saying, Black men supported the women supported men, everybody supported each other. This, like I said, this was a collective effort. This was not just, all right, y'all go do your job, I'm gonna do my job, and we're gonna call it that. No, everybody had a part, everybody had a role.
They sure did.
In all of this. Mm-hmm. And so now to kind of switch the gears here a little bit. So I think people talk about this, maybe not so much. And if they do, there's probably different ways in which they engage with it. But the idea of business and pleasure in the film.
Yes.
And we really see this as it's focusing in on another Black female character, Dominique LaRue, played by Jasmine Guy, which by the way, come to find out, she was not the original person set to play the role. actress by the name of Michael Michelle originally was in the role, but some situations happened, some things transpired, and Jasmine Guy ended up being in the role. So she's identified as a Creole woman.
Yes, yes.
Now,
yes.
you know, if there is some critique, you know, because nothing is above critique. If there is critique, it was the way that they did kind of villainize, you know, Creole women.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of like, oh, you know, she'll put a root on you. You don't want to mess with them Louisiana women, you know, and or the colorism kind of played a role, you know, them light-skinned women, you know.
Exactly.
You know, and it's, you know, not that we expected. It was definitely, I don't want to make that assumption, but it definitely shows you that even when we put together the cast, that we even sometimes will, you know, fall in those cracks as far as, you know, talking about colorism, as far as incorporating stereotypes. So, you know, even we do, you know, we so.
And I think now that conversation, I don't know if at that time this type of conversation was being had.
Yes.
About light skin and colorism in this way. We knew colorism existed, but was it being had in this way?
Right.
Because even adding to that, how she was depicted as this trickster.
Yeah.
And she definitely, you know, tricked, you know, a couple of things like, you know, tricked him in bed and things like that. And so that brings the question, okay, so we're going to talk a bit about now sexual politics.
Yeah.
And ownership of Black women's bodies, like us owning our bodies, or using it for business and pleasure.
Right.
How does that look? So going back to Dominique LaRue, who I can't really see being other than Jasmine Guy, she delivered.
When it's all said and done, yeah.
Yeah, she delivered. She delivered that role. I'm not saying anyone else couldn't have done it, but she did that role. She was the wife of the Italian crime mob.
Mistress.
I'm sorry, I apologize. The mistress of the mob leader.
Right. Why is his name slipping me?
I don't know. I don't think I ever knew his name. Because every time Eddie Murphy would bring him up, he would make jokes about him.
About his size.
Yes.
It's gonna come back to us. It's gonna come back. Calhoun.
Yeah, okay, that's who it is. Okay, correct. But again, I just want to say the reason it was hard was because every time he came up, Eddie Murphy was prepared with the jokes.
He was.
So I focused less on the name and more on the jokes, which was important for me. It was hilarious. So she was his mistress, and she used her body and feelings. Well, not feelings for him. What were the feelings?
Well, you know, this chemistry, lust. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Chemistry for him to try to get him to be a part of Calhoun's company, the Pity Pat Club, and to eventually, when he said no, to seduce him into her bed to kill him.
Ultimately kill him, yeah.
Mm-hmm. To ultimately kill him. Yeah. So on one hand, you're looking at it like, okay, this is empowering how she's taking control of the situation, because Calhoun did ask her,
he did.
Hey, would you do this or whatever, or do what you need to do? And she did. So she is taking ownership.
Yes. So it wasn't like she felt like she was threatened to do this, forced to do this. It was almost as though she was like, yes, I would. You know, it almost kind of like dare you to and say otherwise.
Right.
You know, so
like that. Like we didn't know.
As she was sitting at the table, he was like, you know, would you have sex with him? You know, in so many other words.
Yes.
And she was like, yes. And you know, it was the straightest face ever.
She was she smoking too? She was like,
she may have been.
It's like, what do you need today? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, but she, you know, she knew what her job entailed.
Right.
You know, like, so this is the business piece. So she knew, you know, she saw Bugsy, you know, Calhoun as a mentor, as this, you know, this guide in the business world. And, you know, at the same time, she also knew, you know, what she could benefit, you know, monetarily, you know, financially from this. Mm-hmm. And so it was a matter of, I'm gonna take care of business, but at the same time, I'm gonna get something for me too out of this.
Right.
This is a win-win. You know, some may, like I said, see it as, oh, he was using her, you know, to No. She knew what she was doing. She knew the path, and she wanted to take that path. So, this, like I said, this was not a forced on a thing.
Right. So then, you know, because that really speaks to the question of is she empowered? Is she really empowered? Yeah. But just like you said, she was a willing participant, or not necessarily a participant. She was a willing actor in this process.
Right.
Yes, I would do this. You know, compensate me in so many ways, and I'll do what I have to do for the business.
Right.
So it was a symbiotic relationship versus you do what I tell you to do. Because that's how Calhoun worked with his people, his other people. Like, you do this, you do this. But with her, it seems as though she had more authority in the conversation.
Definitely, you know, and she was able to navigate it because she even had her own space. She had her own, you know, everything she still controlled.
Right.
It was all said and done. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And then it goes to even, you know, this whole idea of sex work. So Vera was this madame. Is it called? I keep going. Is it?
I feel like that's the name that we can grow with. I think that's the appropriate name, you know. Definitely, you know, you all in the comments, you know, correct us, you know, so we make sure we have the right name. But I believe it's a madam, yeah.
Okay, so she had all these women in her circle. Now, during this time, Calhoun, the Italian mob leader, Bugsy, had the police working for him to pretty much shut down Sugar Ray, the club, Sugar Ray's. And so they came up with this scheme of, well, how can we trick him?
Right.
Now, and we'll talk about the business again later, but how can we trick him? One way they did it was, you know, with the help of Vera, who was there again, a part of this decision-making and strategic discussion. They asked her, how can she help me? Well, basically she said, I can't say the phrase, but she had someone named Sunshine who could convince one of Calhoun's people that she loves him, and this person can easily be tricked by Sunshine's work.
She could flip anybody.
Yes, she can flip anyone. Yeah. She can definitely flip this person. This person, one thing I will say, he eventually called his wife and child and said, we're done. Because of Sunshine's
the power of Sunshine.
The power of Sunshine. Okay, there we go. Yeah. You can watch and figure out how she got her name. Another thing about her is that one thing about Sunshine, who was played by Lita Rakan, it was one scene, I don't know if you want to say it about the bar scene.
Say it again.
I don't know if you want to talk about the bar scene.
Oh, yes. So Lita Rakan, who plays Sunshine, you know, so she's at the bar, you know, she's with another gentleman. Mm-hmm. You know, so she came with somebody else before she, got with this other guy. Mm-hmm. And so they're at the bar, and this whole time, she's not even paying attention to the gentleman who she initially came with. She got her eyes on this one. She got her eyes on the target, as I said, eyes on the prize.
Yes.
She's literally like looking, smiling, you know.
Right.
And getting his attention, as well as the rest of the other gentlemen that's sitting with him at their attention as well at the bar. And so it was interesting that for them, they had the audacity to think that she wanted all of them, not just one, but all of them. So you think she came here to, you know, basically tag team, group, whatever, with each one of you? Like, that's how she rolled? Okay. And, you know, they quickly would realize that, yeah, no, it ain't about you. It's not about you, just about him. You all can go on about your business. This is who I came here to see. And, you know, in this way, basically, in without saying it, you know, labeling her as this Jezebel without even, like I said, without even having to say it, you know, and the assumption that she came here for all and not just, you know, just one. So
that was the main thing. And I wonder if Eddie Murphy did that intentionally. This Isabel, and how they realized, oh, she's not
right. And they didn't push it. Once again, the power of the Black woman. because they could have easily been like, hey, I mean, come on now, we want to be a part of it. And it was really like once she, zoned in on him, that one guy, they just kind of was like, they fell back. And they didn't put any more pressure on it. They just let it be. So
that was great.
yeah.
And then another aspect of sexual politics in the way of owning their bodies and what their bodies do was when can I say that word? When Vera called herself an honest H.
Honest, she called herself an honest hope. We'll say that. That'll be the only one. We'll say that's the only thing we'll say. But she did call, and because this was going back to when Quick was accusing her of stealing the money.
Right.
Oh, wait. No. Don't do that. I'm an honest one. So.
Thank you for saying it. I appreciate it. I was like, this is it.
It's all said and done. You can't sleep on Della Reese.
You cannot sleep on Della Reese. You cannot. The way she delivered that role. And then again, I have to go to Touched by an Angel, because that was how I saw her before I revisited Harlem Nights. Right, and so she is so versatile, and how amazing how wonderful of a comedian she is, or she was. Mm-hmm. The way she delivered those lines, I believe she was an honest one. Yeah. I believe if I knew her as a, let's say Vera was a real person, I believe her. Right. She required, even in the midst of this comedy, mm-hmm. in the midst of all these men, you see her. Right. And he made sure that everyone saw her too in the way the role is structured. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is great to me, because you see what women empowerment looks like. It doesn't always look this one sanitized way. Right. She was women empowerment throughout this film. She owned herself, she owned her work, and she protected others like her. Right. And I also want to make note, she wasn't, she didn't have the European, slender look either. And right. So I appreciate that, because they could have easily had a woman who looked a stereotypical type of way, mm-hmm. a very Western European way look, and even still be Black, but still, take on these European Western standards. And they didn't. They gave you a full figured woman who still looked good, her with her hair, her hats, her dress, everything about what she wore, even that cane. I don't know if y'all peeped the cane, but the cane even was fly. And so the fact that there was, this inclusive nature as far as including women of all shapes and sizes, and not just limiting it to one particular type of Black woman. So right. I have to make mention of that, and I appreciate, that specific casting. And how she was older. Right. She was this older woman, full figured woman. I was like, yes, mm-hmm. to be seen. Exactly. And to be given credit, like, in our Black communities today, or even, during that time, our elders deserve respect. Right. We always give them respect. And you see how she was given respect in this film throughout the entire film. Even when Quick shot her toe. Right. She still got respect in the end. Yep. First of all, can we talk about the fact that before she got shot at Pinky Toe, how she took off her hat and she said, oh, let me pin it because this is cute and I need to make sure I'm still doing it a classic way. This movie is great. It's that moment of when be like, let me take off my earrings. Y'all mess with the wrong. It was the earring take off pretty much, but the hat take off. That's what it was. Yes. Oh man, so in the face of sexism, in the face of racism, in the face of everything, Jim Crow, in the face of everything against, marginalizing Black people, oppressing Black people, we have to talk about Sugar Ray's business. Yes. And how successful it was, even though there was some questionable activities that may have been taking place, perhaps. The candy store. You have a candy store that it was successful. And so
and this goes back to what the Harlem Renaissance was about. It was about Black creativity. It was about success. It was
Right.
about businesses shining. It was about making sure that Black people are seen and
Right.
heard.
Right.
Um, yeah, and even with the police basically trying to attempt to squash the club, even with them burning it down,
Burning it down.
they still survived and thrived. They
They
still
sure did.
did it. Like, because in the end, they still won.
They still won. When they burned that club down, they're like, oh, bet. So you burned our clubs down? Where's the pity pat at? Like, we need to go. What's the pity pat?
That club, yeah.
Yeah, where's that located? Y'all go handle that. We're gonna be at this fight that we just tricked them into wasting their money on.
Right.
So we got other things to do. Or matter of fact, we're not gonna be at the fight. We gotta continue our plan. So we winning. Like, not letting racism win, not letting sexism, not letting all this outside stuff win, because we're still going to celebrate.
Right.
We're still going to be ourselves, and we're still going to be strategic in how we win.
Yep.
And it was beautiful.
It's when you think that we slipping, or that we not paying attention, we everywhere.
Right.
Every little detail. There was the I guess what would you call it? The group, the main collective. It wasn't that many, but they were able to spread all over Harlem to take care of all of what they needed to do to get the job done.
Exactly.
But even in that few, they were many. And so, it's like, don't sleep on the capability of what Black folks can do. We smart.
I mean, they did stuff like, hey, we're going to change the traffic light. Like, very creative. Like, wow, this is beautiful. It was gorgeous. I'm sorry.
Small details.
Yes. But even in the joy, they do show Black men as vulnerable. Yes. They have these moments where, it's allowed if Black men are vulnerable to show vulnerability in different ways, as well as women in their own ways. But even with this whole conversation, we just mentioned it earlier, I'm not going to stay on it too long, but with Quick apologizing to Vera for the pinky toe shooting.
Right.
And how that was an emotional moment for him. The way in which he apologized was not like, oh, sorry, but the way he showed his care and the way he did apologize was important. Where, yeah, you can apologize too in your own way. Just get it done.
Right.
And another vulnerable scene was when Tommy was shot.
Yeah.
And his brother was so emotional.
Arsenio Hall, played by Arsenio Hall.
He was crying for at least 20 minutes of the movie?
Like real tears.
Yes.
And even though I cracked up and laughed, which I should not have done, but
hilarious.
But it was so hilarious in the fact that he was crying over the loss of his brother. Like, he was so upset. So it was almost like he had an out of body experience, because if you notice, like, he ended up shooting his own man. He ended up, it's so much. It was like, it was funny but not funny, because there was so much happening.
Right.
Moment, because of the loss of his brother.
Right. Because it was almost, I don't know what their relationship was like before this moment, but you could tell they must have been very close.
Yeah.
And so he did feel that loss in his tears. But then it makes me go back to when Quick was a baby, when he was younger, and he lost both his parents and he was aggressive. Like, how different, I don't know how to explain this to connect it, but the importance of family.
Right.
In Black lives, period, in everyone's lives, but the importance of family, and how, the loss of Quick's mother and father made him very hard as a person.
Yeah.
And you have this situation of family dynamics where he was not necessarily, he wasn't hard, but he was hurt.
Right.
And you saw the hurt on his face up until the moment he was shot with one bullet.
And then you have the vulnerability of Quick with Dominique, and the fact that he told her his real name, Ernest, by the way. And how he even mentioned, I never told anyone my name, and whether that was her, whatever it was that she did to be able to allow him to open up, you know, but he was still vulnerable in that sense of opening up who he really was and truly was. You know, the vulnerability of being able to apologize to Vera,
Right.
the vulnerability of being able to listen to your elder who is just trying to make you better, who is just trying to make sure that you still stay alive, you know.
Right.
Um,
Don't shoot nobody else in the
so,
picture.
right. And, you know, I would even say the vulnerability of Benny. Now, we may not see it as this, but I kind of see it as a vulnerability of, you know, when Sugar Ray comes to him and is like, hey, man, let me come talk to you. Because he could have embarrassed him at the crap table. He could have. But he took him to the side. He said, come on, man. Come on. Let me talk to you. Didn't I get you those glasses? Didn't I get? And, you know, of course, they go back and forth as far as, you know, why he don't want to wear the glasses and what they look like. And, you know, but even Sugar, he's like, they look good on you, man. They look good on you. You know, wear them.
He was looking at him like, I can barely see out these things. And his eyes was big. It was hilarious. It was big. I mean, it was great. It was great.
It was the, you know, him, like, because this is his people. Because he wasn't going to let these outside guests come in and join on his man. He was like, no, come on, man. And, you know, just put the glasses on, play the table. Let's make this right. Let's make that money, you know, because he easily could have thrown him out because Benny was not calling the numbers.
Right.
Not calling the numbers. Let's just be clear.
It was like a home 11 and said like 3. It was just like, Benny, did you see the other dice? But no worries.
Totally was missing it. But he said, that's my friend, that's my family. I ain't gonna do you like that. You know, so we see that everybody is willing to help. Everybody's also willing to take the help. And it's not seen as a charity case either. I think sometimes it can be confused as like, oh, this is charity. No, this is about making sure we all win.
Exactly.
We all come on the come up.
Because even in the scheme, again, this goes back to community as well. Because even in the scheme, Sugar Ray said, we all going to win.
Right.
We all going to make money from this.
Yep.
We all, it's okay. We all going to get something out of this. It's not just going to be me. And so just like you said, it's about teamwork. And I wonder if, you know, with Benny with glasses, I wonder if he was kind of sad or emotional about his age and how his eyes have aged. So he did not want to, that was kind of.
It's a, you know, because it's like you're getting older.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not the young spring chicken on you know, the new kid on the block. You know, you've been in the game for a while. Folks sometimes dismiss you. So he's trying to make sure that he keep his notoriety, you know, and so
I've been on this for 40 years.
Yeah. So I get it, you know. What else? Oh, so we got to talk about the fact that Sugar Ray was able to pay white cops to work for him, and how only that works in the imaginary.
Only works in the imaginary. That was adorable. Like, I can't even, well, not adorable, but it was amazing. Because it really brings in this conversation on racism and capitalism. So we already know that racism is a function of capitalism. Money talks. Money can get you access that other things can't. And so he was able to pay these white cops. Were they the same cops from before? We're look back at it. But he was able to pay these cops to work for him. In the midst of all this racism going on, and in the midst of Calhoun owning the police department, because of the fact that he had more money, he was willing to offer more money. And it was amazing. And so even here, his club was still successful.
Right.
The Italian mob was jealous, and the police, of course, was working for the mob. So they were whatever. They were jealous, and they were even trying to poach Quick. Because they were like, how are you still successful? We did everything. We followed the racism manual. How did you still win?
Right.
We went, we intimidated you. We had police show up talking about, how'd you make this much money? How successful you become, blah, blah, blah. How'd you get this, blah, blah. And yet, they still were successful, and they still won, even when their club was burned. They said, we don't need this club no more.
Yep, we're going to move forward. Move to another city.
It's fine. And that was really good. So even at that point where they were getting ready to move on, before they decided to move on, you had Sugar Ray's wife saying, I don't want to leave the city. And you had Quick saying, I don't want to leave the city. But then Sugar Ray was like, let's be wise about this.
Right.
Yes, we are successful here, but we have to be smart.
Right.
We know that even once they burn this club down, once they do all this stuff, we cannot exist here.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we can't grow anywhere else. We just know that this would be a problem.
Yep. Yep.
And so, go ahead.
In the end, you know, they knew that what they had to do.
Yeah.
And also in the end, you know, we realized that only in the imaginary are we able to defeat racism and capitalism. Like only in the imaginary, like say, can I have a white cop on my payroll? Make him work for me. Like only in the imaginary can we see that. So
and even with the other, when the Pity Pat Club was burned down, how they were able to easily go in and do that. Yep. I mean, I'm not saying they can. I don't know, but that was definitely going back to the imaginary.
Yes.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, so some small things that we noticed as watching it. Language, as we've said already before, it was a lot of language that was happening in this film. It was almost, I felt like, as you even said, it was more of that than your regular clean language, so but also, in the midst of that, the use of certain terms.
Yes.
So derogatory terms.
Yes.
So the fact that the main detective or cop that was coming after Sugar Ray, you're talking about, using the term colored, and how, he said, colored guys with guns make me nervous, which speaks to this, current police brutality today. And that, the guns are not the issue, but in this case, the black bodies are the issue.
Right.
That's what they're scared of, and continue to be.
Right, because he didn't say, guns made me nervous. He specifically said colored guys with guns. Right. He was specific about that. So it speaks to, like you said, the gun isn't, having guns are not the problem, it's who has the gun.
Right.
And
I mean, I've had my own encounter of being called colored in recent time, within the last, last 10 years, of someone calling me a colored girl, and how it really just was like, oh, but we don't use that no more. Like that's not language we use anymore. And someone trying to tell me that because of who said it, because it was an older white couple, that I should just be like, oh, well, it was an older white couple, so that's what they know. No.
That doesn't matter.
If any better, that doesn't, and it doesn't matter. If anything, it makes it worse, because that means you're still stuck in that mentality that you felt it was okay to call me a colored girl.
Right.
No,
it doesn't work. And how does it work when I'm supposed to respect you as an older couple?
Right.
You can't respect me as a black person. How does that work? Does age trump race? Like, how does these things work? No. If I know you may be 94. Let's say the couple may be 94, 95. I'm happy you made it to this age, and you lived through a lot of things. But if we're going to encounter each other, have any type of dialogue, you need to respect me in this process. It's not like I cursed you out. It's not like I threw anything at your face. It's about, if you're going to speak to me, then speak to me with respect. It has nothing to do with the fact that you may have grown up through Jim Crow. I am sorry. Right. But just as time changes, you must change if you want to keep interacting.
Exactly.
Black person. So yeah, I'm sorry.
So, the use of colored and jigs, which every time someone said that, I cringed when I heard it in the movie, because it was like, it stung, because it was like, wow, that's worse than colored.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's worse.
And every time, it's funny, everyone who said those words didn't make it well in the end.
Yeah, they did.
The police officer, he ended up in the vault.
Yep.
Calhoun people, they ended up blown up.
Yeah.
And the other Calhoun person, I don't know where he is. He disappeared into the film. But
yeah, it didn't work out well for those who use that particular language.
Right. And I want to go back to cursing, because I know cursing is not considered positive language. Mm-hmm. But in this film, you see how it's a natural part of the dialogue. It is how you speak. It did not take away from the love or the emotions that came across.
Right.
it's just a part of natural speak.
Yep.
And to me, I mean, granted, I can't say it now, but it was I I felt seen in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not saying that I go around cussing everybody out or whatever like that, but in my culture, or not in my culture, in at home conversations, cursing is a part of the process. It's a part of the dialogue. They don't make them bad people.
Right.
It's just a part of the dialogue. And giving credit to this nuanced language of cursing and what cursing means, and how even now when cursing is used, and I don't know, but that's my thing. I'm glad that the conversation was still cursing, because it was as though like, yeah, people curse. It's
Right.
okay. It doesn't make them less great.
They what is it? Not front. I don't want to use the word front. When they code switch, it wasn't like they had to code switch. They were just, this is who they were.
Right. You didn't have the code
Their
switch.
natural state, and so they didn't have to put on airs or put on a different face.
Right.
You know, that was just who you were. It was kind of like, this is what you get. You know.
Exactly. Because they were around their own.
Exactly.
And it was like, I can cuss. Like, why not? This is how I feel. Like, I'm going to say it, you know? But it was love. It was love. So,
yeah. Language. It's always important. Always important.
Always key. It was beautiful, you guys. Just watch the film. Another aspect of this was this plan for this long-term wealth. Yeah. Now, the film ended, again, this film, the majority of the film was in 1938. Right. So the Harlem Renaissance, again, was ending around this time, if not have already ended. So you see this in the film when, you know, everything's blown up. They get their money from the scheme they created to, you know, trick the Italian mob. They did all that stuff. And at the end, I don't know, was it the hotel? But either way, the group of them, it was Redd Foxx, it was Vera, well, Benny, it was Vera, Quick, and Quick, Sugar Ray and his wife?
Right, and the rest of the crew. We just gonna say the rest of the crew, yeah.
Everybody was there. And they all was getting in the car to leave. And so before they left, they like had money, a lot of money, because they already tricked them into betting on the wrong team. So they won a game. So not the wrong team, the wrong boxer. And what's Quick said, what do you want to do now, Pop?
Right.
And Sugar Ray was like, I don't know exactly the quote, but he was like, we have a trunk full of money. We could do anything. It was like, this is amazing. Yes, you can. You have money. No, we have a tank full of gas and a trunk full of money. We can go anywhere. It was as though it may have ended here, but it doesn't mean it stopped.
Right. That was just a stop on the road. So
exactly. So I like that.
And I like that in a kind of very low key way. You know, the conversation from the beginning, even all the way to the end, was this mapping of long-term wealth.
Yes.
And we often don't really talk about that in the Black community. We talk about that instant wealth, but we don't talk about, as my mom said, that long money. And so this was an opportunity to create that long money. And it's not really it's not put in the same conversation with the Black community. And so here was an example. You know, the money may not have been received in the way that you would have liked for it to be received, or in this best way, but however, it still allowed for an opportunity to create a better life. And it was like to change, fix what was how you got it, to fix it so that we don't have to do that again.
Exactly.
It's important that we set the groundwork, we lay the foundation so that the generations that come after us don't have to struggle in that way. Don't have to steal from the mob.
Right.
So
I think that's what Sugar Ray was trying to teach Quick throughout the whole film.
Exactly.
Like plan for the future. Don't think about what's going on right now. We got this. We're going to leave. We don't have to stay here. There's more for us out there.
Right.
But we have to be strategic and not just focus on this isolated moment of strife. Like it will get better. But yes, so I think that's awesome.
A side thing to note, and when we were talking about the film and kind of gathering information that we hadn't learned and didn't know about, there was this idea of working through sickness and pain. So you're probably like, what do you mean working through sickness and pain? Where did you see that? So this is behind the scenes.
Right.
Interesting fact. During the filming of the movie, Eddie Murphy would learn that Richard Pryor was sick with MS. And so this reminds me of, who's still processing, the Chadwick Boseman situation, in which he was working through pain, working through sickness. And, but you didn't know it. You didn't see it. And Eddie Murphy was talking about how he had no idea because of, he came to deliver. Richard Pryor he brought everything to the table, 100%. Same with Chadwick. He brought everything to the table, 100%. And it was more so like, I don't want you to treat me differently because I am. I'm gonna put in everything, all the work, so that we can have this great, finished product. And that's what I definitely see with Harlem Nights. Like, you see an amazing product that we're still talking about today in 2021. Came out in 1989, and we're still talking about it in 2021. So the work, the sacrifice, loss of sleep, loss of whatever, like, we see this amazing product that comes, from that. So I just found that really interesting and amazing and commendable that, working through that, and how not everybody is able to do that. I don't know. I can't say if I would be able to work through the sickness and the pain. I don't know.
Right. And the thing is also giving credit if you're not able to work through the sickness and pain. Like, that's the alternative as well. And one thing I am, like you said, it's good that they were able to do this because their craft was important to them.
Exactly.
Right at all. Like, this is what they wanted. Boseman as well as Pryor. They wanted to be a part of these films. They want to do this because this is their life work. Right. But then if you can't, for those who cannot work through it, they should also get the credit and not, because sometimes we tend to compare, like, if he can do it, then why can't you do it?
Right.
And so I think, that brings up the point of, if you can't do it, or if you don't feel up to do it, that's fine too.
Don't feel like you have to. Right.
Right. So yeah. So one thing I want to do is I want to end on some good notes.
Woo!
I want to talk about a couple of random funny moments that can really fit into themes. So that was at the Pity Pat Club. They had this man, like, before, as they were going in and getting ready to bomb, they had this man playing the maracas. And I mean, he was in it. It wasn't like, whatever. He had the outfit that was like, I think it was gold, and dancing like, you just doing.
On it.
He was just like killing it. Like, this was his time. He said, I'm going to take the solo. Right. And it was perfect. We were open when we first realized they were at the Pity Pat Club. It opened with him and the scene. And he was like, was he in the corner? No, at first he was far away, but then he was like in the corner of the screen as everybody was trying to run away, whatever. He was just still, I don't know how to explain it, but he was just always at the forefront because he was just like in it. He was moving it. And I almost wish we had the outfit to play it today, but we don't have it.
Like, every time I see that scene, it's almost like I know what's coming. Because when we go into the Pity Pat Club, we about to see the maracas man, because he about to get it. And he nailed that.
He nailed it.
It made me think about, if any of you all watched the Super Bowl, there's moments that we talked about a lot of things. There was a lot of stuff that we talked about, some stuff that we shouldn't talk about, some stuff that was just like, did that really just happen? But there was a scene or a moment that it got talked about, but I don't think not enough. And it was the gentleman who was doing the sign language during the national.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I believe his name is Warren. Got to get the name, but I believe his first name is Warren. When I tell you, I was tuned in to him with this, the sign language. Jasmine Sullivan, yep, I saw her. The other guy, yep, he was there. But I was tuned into the man with the sign language. And it made me think about the maracas man, because I zoomed into him at the Pity Pat Club. Because it was all about him. It was all about him.
I don't even think it was even about the bomb at the end of the day. It was about him.
Even then, when the bomb went out and the guns went off, he threw them maracas up and was gone.
He beat his band out. The band was just there. I don't know if they left yet, but he was like, "Oh, this is not it."
No time. There was no like, "Hey man, you coming?" No, it was like maracas gone, I'm gone.
That was one of the best scenes. Well, I don't know, so many great scenes, but that was hilarious.
Yes.
Maracas.
Then, of course, the one where we mentioned about Benny needing to put his glasses on at the crab table, because if you know, you all know the scene. He clearly missed them numbers. Clearly missed the numbers.
Hey, you're not even close.
I just.
And I want to say another thing about that crap table. Every time I see Harlem Nights, I assume they were going to trick him into thinking it was a certain number.
Yeah.
I always think like when he's like 42, what's the number? Let's say like he'll say 8 or whatever, or 11, and it was 7. And they say it's 7. You know, usually at certain places, they could trick him into say, actually, it may have actually been 11, for example. And they may have just said 7 because they knew he was going to say yes. But everybody was honest.
Right.
No one like, you know, said the wrong number just so they could win. They were all honest. So I give them credit.
Yes.
And that was hilarious. If you would just see the exchanges, like it was beautiful.
It was.
It was. Another hilarious scene. Of course, we did the swallowing the container.
When the detective was locked in the vault, and they were like, you know, I think you got about a day and a half or so, you know, of air in here. And he asked, you know, Doc, how much you got? Yeah, give or take an hour or so. That was the Charlie character. Like, yeah, give or take an hour or so. And you know, they were like, take small breaths. Small breaths.
And they closed the fight. He was like, I was like, he's not gonna make it through the night because when he starts going to sleep, it's gonna be over. So just call it. But that was funny. That was really hilarious.
Too many scenes. Definitely, like I said, a movie that is always worth watching. It's kind of one of those things where you need to at least watch it like once a year at minimum. You know,
I would say like twice a year.
Twice a year. You know, in the beginning of the year, the latter part of the year. Get that time in, get that comedy fix in. Yes. You know, reflect on all of the greats that you know were in that movie and who we lost, who we still got. You know, I'm not sure if I would be up for a remake. You know, there's all these remakes that are coming out. You know, especially with Coming to America coming out on Amazon Prime next month. I don't know if I want to see a Harlem Nights remake. I'm not sure on that. You know.
I don't know if that can be I don't think it's possible because the way these actors and actresses work together and you know all their fame, their comedic timing, all these things, I don't know if we will have the same.
I don't know if you can reimagine that again.
You can't. Because then I'll always think this is just a knockoff because this is too funny. It's too funny because it was organically funny. You can't recreate any of that. It would have to be completely different.
Right.
It couldn't even be in Harlem because they left.
Exactly.
So what would it be like? It couldn't even be there.
Just leave that one alone.
Yeah. Just it was great as it was. We'll just wait for Coming to America. You can recreate that as it has been. So we'll wait for that.
So I want to make sure that we notate or acknowledge that book on your shelf, and I got a book to share too.
Yes.
Since we talk about and so forth, Alain Locke, who often doesn't get talked about, he don't get his shine, you know.
Exactly. And he was like one of the main architects of the Harlem Renaissance, the intellectual engine behind the Harlem Renaissance. Yes. Alain Locke is amazing. It was amazing.
So got to make sure to put him out there. I wanted to shout out this book here from Blair Amani called Making Our Way Home, The Great Migration and Black American Dream. That's what we saw in Harlem Nights, the Black American Dream coming to fruition. And make sure to note the warmth of other suns from Isabel Wilkerson. So there's, you know, definitely want to make sure we drop some gems for you, some notable gems that you can go pick up, you know, the new Cicely Tyson memoir and the text edited by Ibram Kendi and Keisha Blaine, 400 Souls. These are all things that, should be part of your library. Make
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
you go get them, order from your local bookstore, and add to the collection.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you got anything else left for us?
I don't have anything else left. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to Conversations with Beloved and Kindred. Like, I'm really excited because, again, Harlem Nights is one of my favorite films and definitely the funniest film I've ever seen in my life. And I am not here for a remake, but that's fine because I'm really excited that we're able to review it. And I want to make sure that you all join us for our next episode when we will be reviewing Lovecraft Country episode 5 and 6.
Still have that dialogue. We're still talking about it. So don't y'all go nowhere. We still keeping that conversation going with that. So till the next time, remember the past is a living thing. The present prepares for us, and the future is ours.
Yeah.
On next time.